Stop being paranoid. Those were her exact words. Sharp, dismissive, almost laughing at me as if the knot twisting in my gut was nothing more than a silly joke. She said it the way you might tell a kid who swears there's a monster under the bed, that it's just their imagination. And for a second I wanted to believe her. I wanted to unclench my fists, silence the storm inside my chest, and let her words soothe me. But paranoia doesn't leave a paper trail. Lies do, and that's what I found. The discovery was almost an accident. I wasn't snooping, not at first. I had been looking through some bills because our electricity provider had sent an overcharge notice. She normally handled our finances. She insisted on it, said she was better with money, and liked the control. I never fought her on it because, truthfully, I didn't care about the day-to-day numbers. But that night, after she brushed me off again with that infuriating, "Stop being paranoid," I sat alone at the kitchen table, the glow of my laptop screen casting long shadows on the walls, and for the first time in a long while, I clicked deeper. At first it was just routine charges, groceries, gas, streaming subscriptions, nothing out of place. Then I saw it, a purchase from Cartier, thousands of dollars, not once, not twice, but several times in the last 3 months. Cartier, and it wasn't for me. I scrolled faster, my pulse hammering. Chanel, Mont Blanc, Dior, watches, jewelry, men's cologne, luxury shoes, item after item, stacked together like building blocks of betrayal. My chest tightened. I checked dates. They lined up perfectly with the times she had work trips, girls' weekends, late nights at the office, and then, the nail in the coffin, a payment to a luxury hotel. Not for 2 nights, but for 7 nights while she claimed she was attending a week-long leadership summit in another city. I stared at the screen, my stomach turning. This wasn't paranoia, this was arithmetic. Cold, hard numbers on a statement. She must have assumed I'd never check. She was sloppy, careless, or maybe she was too confident in her lies, too convinced that my love made me blind. I leaned back in my chair, the room spinning. It's strange when you first suspect betrayal, there's still space for doubt. You second-guess yourself. Think maybe you're insecure, maybe you're too controlling. But once you see it, once you see evidence with your own eyes, there's no going back. The ground you've been standing on crumbles, and suddenly you're in freefall. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those transactions. Cartier bracelets, Dior suits, watches that cost more than my car. All for him. Not for me. Not for us. For him. The next morning she breezed into the kitchen like nothing was wrong. She was humming, hair tied back, making coffee. She kissed me lightly on the cheek, asked if I slept okay. My throat was dry. I wanted to shove the laptop in her face and scream, "Who is he?" But I did. I just nodded and said fine, because I realized something important. If I confronted her now, she'd wriggle out of it. She'd call me paranoid again, invent excuses, cry until my anger dissolved into guilt. She'd done it before, not this time. This time I needed proof that no amount of crocodile tears could erase. So I started watching. I paid attention to the little details I'd ignored before. The sudden interest in her phone, whenever she got a message. The way she tilted the screen away from me when she the carefully rehearsed stories about who she was with and why she was late. It all came into sharper focus now. I checked her purse one evening while she showered. Tucked inside, beneath her wallet and makeup, was a receipt for a pair of men's shoes from Prada. My size, 10. The receipt 11.5. He had big feet, bigger than mine. That detail shouldn't have hurt, but it. I went through the mail before she could get to it. Credit card bills, store catalogs. I intercepted one glossy flyer addressed directly to her, but congratulating her on earning platinum status with Hermes. She hadn't bought a single thing from Hermes for herself in years. For him, apparently she had. And then, the most damning piece, a gift receipt left crumpled in her jacket pocket. A men's watch, engraved, the note attached to the man who makes me feel alive again. Alive again. I don't think I've ever felt my heart drop so hard, like a stone through water. It wasn't just betrayal. It was her saying, without saying it, that I wasn't enough. That our life, our home, our love, It wasn't enough to make her feel alive. I didn't confront her, not yet, because I realized what I had was still circumstantial: purchases, receipts, bank statements, enough to know the truth, but not enough to make her admit it. Not enough to shatter the facade she'd built so carefully. So I planned. She had another work trip scheduled in 3 weeks. 3 nights in Chicago, she said. I smiled, kissed her, told her to take care of herself. Inside, I was already packing my own bag, not to travel with her, but to follow. When the day came, she kissed me goodbye, suitcase in hand, perfume lingering like poison in the air. I waited an hour, then left too. I drove, my pulse pounding, the receipts and statements tucked into a folder in my bag. It didn't take long to find her. She wasn't in Chicago. She was 20 miles away at a resort hotel, the kind with valet service and suites overlooking a golf course. I parked across the street and watched, and then, there she was, stepping out of a car, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. He stepped out too, tall, broad-shouldered, well-dressed. The same man whose name I'd heard in passing for months. The one she said was demanding but fair. The one she said just believed in her potential. I watched as he put his arm around her, pulling her close, pressing a kiss to her temple as if he owned her. She laughed, leaned into him, let him take her suitcase like they'd done this 100 times before. And me, I sat there invisible, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white. I took photos. Her laughing at him, his hand on her lower back, the way they looked at each other like they were the only 2 people in the world. I took it all. Proof. That night, I sat in my car outside the hotel, staring at the lit window of their room. I imagined her in there, wearing the dress she never wore for me anymore, unwrapping gifts bought with our money, laughing at jokes that weren't mine. I felt the fury rise, the ache claw at my chest, but I didn't move. I stayed, because I knew this wasn't the time. The time would come soon enough. Her mother's retirement party was 2 weeks away. A big event, family, friends, colleagues. She'd insisted I come, said it was important we be seen together, a united front. The irony almost made me laugh. I smiled, told her I wouldn't miss it, but inside I knew that would be the night. The night I laid it all out. The night I stopped being the paranoid fool she thought she could control. The night she finally faced what she'd done, and she had no idea I was already sharpening the knife of truth. The night of her mother's retirement party was one of those evenings where the atmosphere seemed too polished, too warm, almost staged. The restaurant her family had rented was lit with golden chandeliers, tables dressed in white linens, and bouquets of roses in glass vases at every corner. People mingled, laughing, sipping champagne, celebrating a woman's long career and her transition into rest. From the outside, it was everything you'd want a family gathering to be. But for me, it was the stage where everything I'd been holding inside was finally going to erupt into light. She was radiant that night, dressed in emerald silk, her hair swept elegantly back, her jewelry subtle but deliberate. She moved through the crowd like a politician, smiling, kissing cheeks, drawing people into her orbit. When she came to me, she slipped her hand into mine and whispered, "I'm glad you're here. This means a lot to me." I smiled. My lips curved, but my chest was ice, because I wasn't there for her. I was there for me. I was there for the truth. We sat at a long table with her family. Her father beamed, proud of his wife's career. Her siblings joked, cousins snapped photos, glasses clinked, and her mother sat at the head, glowing, honored, soaking in the love of everyone around her. It was the kind of moment where family bonds should have been the focus. Instead, it was about to become the battlefield for her lies. Dinner began. Speeches started. Her sister went first, raising a toast to their mother's dedication and resilience. Her brother followed, recalling funny childhood stories that made everyone laugh. Then my girlfriend stood. She held her glass high, her voice smooth and confident. "To my mother," she began, "the strongest woman I know, my role model, my rock." She glanced at me then, just briefly, her smile sharp as a blade. "And to the importance of family, the foundation that never breaks." The irony nearly choked me. Family, foundation, never breaks. I looked at her as she spoke, watched the way her eyes glittered with pride, as though she wasn't carrying the weight of Cartier receipts and hotel nights behind her back. She sat down to applause, cheeks flushed, smile triumphant. That was my cue. I stood, slowly. The scrape of my chair against the floor cut through the noise. The room hushed, all eyes turning toward me. My girlfriend's smile faltered, her hands tightening around her glass. She knew, somewhere deep down she knew. "I'd like to say something," I began, my voice calm, steady. Her father nodded, gesturing for me to continue. "Of course," he said warmly. "Please." I looked at her mother first. "Tonight, we celebrate a woman who gave her life to her career, who built something strong and lasting, someone who deserves honesty and respect." I paused, my gaze shifting to my girlfriend. "And honesty is the one thing I no longer have in my relationship." A ripple of confusion spread through the room. Glasses lowered. Conversation stopped. My girlfriend's face drained of color. "Don't," she whispered, her voice sharp and pleading. But I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the folder. Thick, heavy, every receipt, every screenshot, every photo. "This," I said, laying the bank statement on the table, "is what paranoia looks like when it's justified." I held up the page. Cartier, thousands of dollars. Not for me, not for us, for him. Gasps erupted. I pulled out another. Dior suits, Prada shoes, men's cologne. I spread them like cards on the table, each one a blade cutting deeper into her mask. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Her father's brow furrowed, his lips pressing into a hard line. Cousins leaned forward, whispering furious. "And this," I said, pulling out the receipt for the engraved watch, "was the moment I stopped doubting myself. A gift with a note, to the man who makes me feel alive again." My voice cracked on the last words, but I didn't falter. I laid it on the table in front of her. She shook her head violently, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Stop, please, stop," she begged. "Not here, not like this." But I wasn't finished. I pulled out the photos, her and him at the hotel, his arm around her, his lips on her temple, her suitcase in his hand, her laughing, radiant, looking at him the way she hadn't looked at me in years. I spread them out slowly, deliberately, until the table between us was covered in the evidence of her betrayal. "She told me to stop being paranoid," I said, my voice like steel. "She told me I was imagining things. But numbers don't lie, receipts don't lie, photos don't lie. She does." The silence was deafening. Her father slammed his fist on the table, rattling glasses. "Is this true?" he demanded, his face red with fury. She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. "It's not what it looks like," she choked out. "Please, it's not." Her mother's sob cut through the air. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "How could you do this to him? To us?" Her siblings were whispering furiously, some shaking their heads, others staring at her with open disgust. The cousins avoided her gaze, and the room, once filled with laughter, was now thick with judgment and betrayal. I gathered the papers back into the folder, tucking them away. I looked at her, really looked at her. "You thought you could gaslight me," I said quietly. "You thought calling me paranoid would make me doubt myself. But the truth doesn't need convincing. The truth is right here." She reached for me then, her face streaked with mascara, her voice breaking. "Please, please, I can explain. I'll fix it. I'll stop. Just don't leave me like this." I shook my head. "You already left me," I said. "Every time you swiped that card, every time you checked into a hotel, every time you laughed in his arms, instead of mine, you left me a long time ago. Tonight, I'm just making it official." I turned and walked out. Behind me, the noise was chaos. Her father shouting, her mother crying, her sobbing voice calling my name. But I didn't look back. I stepped into the cool night air, breathing deeply, the weight on my chest finally lifting. She followed, stumbling in her heels, grabbing my arm as I reached the car. "Please," she sobbed. "Don't do this. I'll give it all back. I'll prove it to you. I'll cut him off. Just please, don't end us." I pulled my arm free, my voice low. "It's already ended. The moment you chose him, it ended. The only difference is, now everyone knows." Her sobs echoed behind me. As I drove away, the lights of the restaurant fading in my rearview mirror. The fallout was swift and brutal. Her family turned their backs on her, humiliated by the public exposure. Her father refused to speak to her. Her mother, heartbroken, avoided her calls. Friends, she thought would support her, disappeared. And the man she betrayed me with, he vanished too, retreating the second. Things got hard, leaving her with nothing. She called me for weeks. Messages, swinging between rage and desperation. You ruined me. One day. Please, I need you. The next. I ignored them all. I filed for separation. My lawyer looked over the folder, the receipts, the photos, and nodded grimly. You've got more than enough, he said. And me. I walked away free. Even now, I sometimes hear her voice in my head. Stop being paranoid. But then I remember the bank statements, the receipts, the photos, and I realize I wasn't paranoid at all. I was paying attention, and the truth, once uncovered, was more powerful than any lie she could ever tell.